Hey there little monkeys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to share with you my business, which is diving board maintenance. For those of you who've never heard of diving before, it's not scuba diving, it's not cliff diving, it is the flipping kind of diving where you jump off of a board into the water and likely do a belly flop. Unfortunately, there is no professional diving league. I mean, there is, there's the Olympics, but two people. Can you not? That's my mom. This all started back in 2018 when I was training after college for hopes of being an Olympian, which did not turn out. But I needed money. There's no money in diving. You don't get paid to be a diver. So I needed to figure something out. And there's work that needs to be done on diving boards, and very few people know how to do it and do it. So I was like, hey, let's give this a shot. This pool is getting a new Duraflex diving stand, and so that means I have to take out their old Paragon stand. This thing is from the 70s. I have never seen metal just chip away like this. This thing is completely, absolutely flabbergasted. Look at these anchors, they're just chipping apart. It's just like little sheets of rock that come off. So I had to take my angle grinder, but I forgot the nut that screws on, so I ended up using a washer and a 15/16 nut to hold it on. This is super dangerous. I would not recommend doing this. It worked, but it kept loosening, and so I had to keep tightening it up. It ended up working out, but of all the things that I remembered, I forgot that. So we worked with what we got. I decided just to cut off the heads of these bolts that are anchoring the Paragon stand into the ground, because I had no way of gripping them with a wrench. They would just fall apart and strip, so you just gotta cut them off, and that took a good while. There was a lot of debris flying around, so I used a little cardboard box to protect my legs. I was wearing shorts. It was pretty hot out there, but there was a nice breeze. It was a good day. I was on the pool deck for 14 hours. I got there around 8 and I left there just after 10. This was by far the longest and hardest I've ever worked. I really wanted to try to get it done in one day since it was about 2 hours away from my house, and I have so many other pools to get ready for the summer. So I really made it a goal to try to get it done in one day. I put together the stands. I did as much work as I could at home in my workshop, and then brought everything over to be installed, but it still took 14 hours. And I gotta say, I've never worked 14 hours for any company my entire life, and it's something that I wanted to do here. I never once looked at the clock. I was never like, oh, when's this going to be over? This is exhausting. I just sort of get in this zone, and it's my project, it's my thing. If I don't do it, it doesn't work out. I think I've always been a pretty hard worker, but I've never worked as hard as I have for my own business, and I don't think I ever could work this hard for anybody else. Not that it's not like a authority problem. It's just that this is my baby. And it's a reflection of me and my work ethic and my craftsmanship, and it's just so easy to work these long hours when it's for me. So I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I guess I'm just trying to say that if I was working for another company, it would just be a completely different experience, and I'd be checking the clock and I'd be thinking about how much money I'm making that day, but none of those thoughts cross my mind when I'm working for myself, and it's just I really feel like I've found my thing, and it's really just so fun. Nobody really tells me what to do because that's why they hired me. I know what to do, and I sort of just work by myself on a pool deck on a beautiful day, and listen to music, and just it's kind of very meditative and just vibey. It feels really rewarding to install these diving boards because I was obviously a kid back in the day, and I was on dive team, and those were some of the best memories of my life. Summertime, sunshine, friends, endless sleepovers, just so much fun. So it's really cool to be able to install these boards for these kids so they can make these memories, they can have a safe time, and everyone can enjoy their summer. I think diving is growing a little bit. It grows every 4 years. Once the Olympics happen, people see the divers and they're like, oh, I want to do that. So it's also awesome to be able to grow the sport and be able to give kids the opportunity to dive, and because a lot of pools don't have diving boards, so whenever a pool's like, we want a diving board, I'm like, yes, diving for the win. A lot of people don't even know what diving is, so it's really special that a pool reach out to me and be like, hey, we want a diving board, we want you to install it, and there's a lot of purpose in that. And every time I install these diving boards, there's always something new that I learn or something new that I mess up, like these anchors. will rub against the side of the stands if they're too high, because the stand kind of slopes in, so you really have to find that sweet spot where it's high enough off the ground with the shims, but not so high that you won't be able to get a nut on it. Next up, I'm going to fill these holes with Hilti epoxy, which is some really high quality strong stuff, and it sets really fast, so I gotta make sure that when I put these anchors in, I do it very quickly and then get the stand on top of the anchors before it sets, so that I can make sure that those anchors are not rubbing up against the wall like I said, and that they're in the right spot so that when they're tightened down it's doing its job effectively. Next up is the board alignment. So I'm going to take the board and I'm going to stage it right next to the stand to make sure that the spacing between the front and the back stand is exactly right, so that the rubber strips on the bottom of the board are going to be directly on top of the fulcrum. I feel like this has got to sound like gibberish to you guys, but whatever, this is what I do. I'm going to let you know what I do. So I know that those rubber strips start right here, and then I'm going to line that up just perfectly with the edge of the fulcrum railings, so that when I put the board on, the board isn't bouncing on metal. There's going to be some separation there with the rubber. And I like to spend a lot of time making sure everything is absolutely perfectly lined up before I tighten everything down and let the epoxy set, because once that's done, there's not really a whole lot you can do to fix it. So there's a lot of this going on. There's a lot of looking, standing, observing, double checking, because you don't want to keep moving forward fast and then have to come back and redo your mistakes, which is something that I do quite a bit. There's a lot of pondering, standing, waiting. And I don't have any employees. Sometimes I'll have my friends come and help me, but for the most part I do it all by myself, so it takes a pretty long time. Especially because when you're moving these big boards and parts around, you don't want to scratch anything, especially because I just got these refinished. So everything's got to be really slow, really careful, very gentle, and it would definitely help if I had another person, but I can kind of just do it on my own, but I'll need to hire somebody here pretty soon. Next up, I'm going to put the arms onto the fulcrum box that are going to hold the guardrails. And again, I'm going to put these on very loosely. I'm just putting a couple nuts in because you want a little bit of wiggle room when you're putting the guardrails on, because you can run into a huge mess of trouble if you tighten these down and then try to bend the guardrails to match perfectly. So I leave everything a little bit loose, so there's a little bit of wiggle room, get everything attached, and once I know everything is fitting where it's supposed to fit, then I'm going to go ahead and tighten everything down. And of all the things that I do, putting on these railings is the most tedious. It's not difficult. There's little guardrail clamps that go onto the railings, but then you have to line those up perfectly with the holes on the guardrail arms and then sneak the bolt in there, and it's just really tedious sometimes. Like this takes so long for me to do, so I really just gotta like be breathing in on my meditation game and just be like, this is gonna take as long as it takes. And it did take a long time. It's been pretty easy to get pools under contract to do diving board maintenance. Once I let them know that diving board maintenance is a thing and that diving boards need to be maintained, they're usually like, oh, I didn't know that. Yes, that sounds good. They haven't been looked at in 30 years. We'd love to have you out. So it's not really like I'm convincing someone that they need work done. It's more that I just educate them on what I do, and they're like, oh, that sounds like something that we should probably do. So there's not a lot of like salesy sales that goes down. It's more of just like information giving, which is good. I don't like being salesy. And where I live in Maryland, there are so many stop looking at my butt, okay? There are so many diving boards and pools and clubs and YMCAs that have diving boards. I haven't even scratched the surface. Okay, that's a lot of butt. So my business has been growing, and I'm actually moving into a new property soon that's going to have a really nice big basement, which I'm going to be able to turn into my workshop. If you follow my channel, you've seen my little wood shop down there, but it's going to expand a little bit bigger, and I'm going to be able to do some diving board stuff down there as well. So I really got to work hard to be able to pay rent because I cannot afford it right now. So very grateful for all these jobs I'm getting this summer that will help me propel my business and get me the space that I need to continue to grow. Let me know what you guys think. God, look at that mess. Let me know if you've ever heard of diving before, if you've ever been off a diving board. Next time you go to a pool, maybe you'll have a little bit more appreciation for these beautiful creatures. And, well, thanks for watching. Thanks for letting me share a little slice of my life. Make sure, especially if you like this video, to not hit the subscribe button because it means nothing to me. All right, love you guys. Bye.